Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're going to do a top 10. The topic of this top 10, dream matches that could still occur. Now, I'm going to put a little caveats here, a little bit of rules to my list. First rule is, it's got to be two wrestlers that are still currently active. And by active, I don't mean like Goldberg doing a one-off appearance or Shawn Michaels doing a one-off appearance. I mean actually active in wrestling. Second rule is they either cannot have wrestled at all before, or if they did, it was when one or both were nowhere near as famous as they are now, or wrestled a different style than they wrestle now. And thirdly, third rule I'm going to give myself for this list is I'm not going to use anybody twice. In other words, I could make a top 10 list of dream matches for AJ Styles or Kenny Omega or Kazuchika Okada all day and night. And if I didn't limit myself to just one match with each of those guys, you'd probably see this list having one of the three in every match. With all that being said, let's jump right into the top 10. Our number 10, Naito versus Kevin Owens. I think this would be an interesting match. I think the way it would play out is Naito would frustrate Kevin Owens with the way that he doesn't care about what's going on. And I think it would frustrate, you could see the two styles being different enough that Kevin Owens would visibly show the frustration. I think they would match up well. I think they'd pull off a really great match with each other and a really great story going into it. Kevin Owens, who seems to care more than he should, and Tetsuya Naito, who doesn't give a shit at all. He's tranquilo. So I think it would make an interesting mix of the two different styles clashing with each other. Now our number 9, Becky Lynch versus Kelly Klein. This is an easy one. This is basically your top woman star in the WWE, Becky Lynch, versus your top Ring of Honor, Women of Honor star, Kelly Klein. Other than that, the fact that both of them are actually terrific wrestlers, and I would love to see the matchup even without them being champion versus champion at this point and being the focal points of their company. It's kind of a matchup I'd love to see. Kelly Klein, they kind of have they're two sides of the same kind of badasses, but they portray it a little bit differently. Kelly Klein is more of a technical badass, where Becky Lynch is, I'm just going to beat your ass badass. And I think it would be a really good matchup. I think it would be one of those things that I'd love to see before either one of them retire. I think it'd be awesome to have it at least one time. Now our number 8, Brock Lesnar versus Minoru Suzuki. This would be amazing. I mean, you'd have two bulls, two guys that have an MMA background, two guys that are scary as shit when you look at them across the ring. Just two of the most believable wrestlers in the world. Two guys that you can believe that what their gimmick is actually what they are. I think they could have a fun MMA-inspired match. I think they could go a little bit into the realism more, where they're actually hurting each other or hitting each other hard. I think this would be kind of a Godzilla versus King Kong, where you got two guys that are just destroyers of worlds going up against each other. And I think it would make an excellent match. It's not a match that I can recall them ever doing, and to me, it would be great to see it. Now I'm our number 7. Jay Lethal versus Seth Rollins. You have the guys that kind of want to take the flag for their company, Lethal and Ring of Honor, who's been, a mainstay of Ring of Honor for several years now. has been a multiple-time world champion, and Seth Rollins, who wants that. He wants to be the mainstay. He wants to be the guy in WWE. And I think their styles would match up well together. I think either one could play face or heel in fantastic fashion. We've seen both of them play both sides of the fence, so it doesn't matter who plays what, in my opinion. They're both technically very sound, two of the best wrestlers in the world. And I think it's a match, it's one of those matches where it has to go 30, 40 minutes at minimum to get all the joy that we would get out of it. And I think they both pull out a fantastic showing if they did it. You can even bank on the fact that Tyler Black, aka Seth Rollins, was the guy in Ring of Honor, and Jay Lethal wouldn't have the spot he's in if Tyler Black stayed. You know, the whole thing, the story writes itself. I just think it would be a fun match to watch. And this is my list, so I'm putting it on here. Now our number 6, our first tag team match of the countdown. The Briscoe brothers versus the Lucha brothers. Brothers on brothers. Again, this is a match that I'm surprised hasn't happened as of yet. You got two of the top tag teams in the world, probably two of the top 5 tag teams there are, period. And I think the clash of styles, the Brawlers from Delaware versus the Lucha style of the Lucha brothers, I think we would have a nice dichotomy. The Briscoes seem to work well and have historically worked well against tag teams that have a more high-flying, faster-paced style. You know, guys like the Young Bucks, guys like the Motor City Machine Guns. They've always matched up well, even early in their career when they wrestled the SATs. They showed that their style is perfect play off of a more flippy Lucha, high-flying style. And I think this would be a great match to watch. I think, you know, I'd love to see what would happen if Pentagon did the Zero Miedo in Jay Briscoe's face. Or even Mark. Mark might bite his hand. I mean, it would just be a fun match to watch, and it would be very interesting, in my opinion. Now, our number 5. We talk about the women's revolution, and we talk about people that are heads of their companies. We've already mentioned 2 women that are head of their companies. Another 2 we have here, Tessa Blanchard, obviously the top woman in Impact, or one of, if not the top, and Charlotte Flair, another one of the top wrestlers, women's wrestlers in WWE. And if you don't know why I would want to see these 2 against each other, it has a little bit of history. They're both second generation. Tessa's a third generation stars. Their fathers are both Hall of Famers, the legendary Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard. And if the pieces are starting to come together for you, and even if they're not, I'm going to put them together this way. Tully and Ric Flair were both members of the Four Horsemen. So you got a girl in Charlotte, or woman in Charlotte, who's had the 4 horsewomen in WWE. But you also got a woman in Tessa Blanchard who could say, hey, I should be one of the 4 horsewomen. I'm a Blanchard. And it's right there. You have it. I mean, it's a built-in rivalry. Their fathers never feuded with each other, but they could play off of that. Tessa could say Rick never gave Tully a world championship shot because he knew that Tully was better than him. And Charlotte could say Rick never gave Tully a world championship shot because Tully wasn't as good as Rick. And they could play off of the whole dichotomy of the second and third generation stars that they are, and the 4 horsemen background to it. I think it would be a fantastic match, even if they weren't Tessa Blanchard and Charlotte Flair. If it was just Charlotte, who's Dave Smith's daughter, and Tessa, who's Joe Jones's daughter. Still think it would be a great match, in my opinion. Add all that in, and it makes it a dream match to me. Now, our number 4. This one I think is going to throw a couple people off because they'd expect a different one. And I'll explain that as I get into this. The Uso brothers versus the Young Bucks. And I know a lot of people, when they put these lists together, they talk about dream matches, they talk about the Young Bucks and the Revival, because it's been teased for so long. And I think that that's actually got a better chance of happening. I do believe that the Revival, at some point, is going to work for AEW. And I think that we're going to see that match, which is kind of why I wanted to go this route with it, because there's less of a chance that we're going to see the Young Bucks versus the Uso brothers. And I think the Usos, they kind of don't get the reputation that they deserve, or they don't get the respect that they deserve for being one of the top tag teams over the last decade, just like the Young Bucks are. The Usos have kind of had to work within the limitations of WWE, who hasn't always had a great tag division. And the Young Bucks have got to pretty much pick and choose who they wrestle for the last decade. Whether it be guys like the Briscoe brothers, whether it be Roppongi 3K, the Best Friends, Super Smash Brothers. They've wrestled all the top teams in the world, except for the Usos. And I think this would be a fantastic match. I do believe that the Usos are definitely on the level of the Young Bucks. I don't think that they're allowed to show it as much. And I think we forget, because of how little WWE puts into their tag team division, how fantastic of a tag team they actually are. So to me, this match would be fantastic. And then if you've noticed, the 2 tag matches we've mentioned, it's 2 brother teams going up against each other, which I think always makes for a good team. I think some of the best teams in history, the Steiner brothers, the Young Bucks, the Rougeau brothers, the Briscoe brothers, all the way through time, some of the best tag teams have been brother tag teams. So, to me, again, another tag team match that I think would be fantastic. Now, our number 3. Kazuchika Okada versus Randy Orton. To me, again, I know there's a lot of detractors for Randy. He's not the most well-liked wrestler in the world. But I think that he is the American equivalent of what Okada is. Okada is the top star in Japan, who had to kind of take a backseat at times to Tanahashi, kind of like Orton did to Cena. So there's a lot of similarities, and plus both of them throw fantastic drop kicks. Orton there's a certain perception of him that he's lazy in the ring, that he doesn't give his full effort at times. And yeah, I gotta admit, sometimes it looks like that. But I also think it's that he's so good that the talent a lot of times that he's wrestling with is not on his level, and he has to dumb it down to their level. That would not be the case with Kazuchika Okada. Kazuchika Okada is as good of a wrestler as there is in the world. So to wrestle him, he could go full out 100% and not have to worry about dumbing it down against the opponent he's going against, because here's a guy that can match or move for move, charisma for charisma, has everything that you have. And I think when we see those matches with Orton, we see him pull out the best of him. Guys like Edge, guys like John Cena. He's had great matches with guys over the years. It's when he falls in with guys that aren't quite as good as him that we see him hit the pitfalls, in my opinion. Now, coming from that, our number 2, AJ Styles versus Kenny Omega. You knew these guys would be on this list, and you knew they'd be on here somewhere near the top. 2 of arguably the best 2 wrestlers of the last 15 years. I mean, you could throw in a couple other guys that have already made it onto this list. You could throw on a couple guys that are going to be after this. But I think a lot of what we're going to see here is because there's an unresolved issue with Omega kicking Styles out of the Bullet Club that's never been paid off. There's always that lingering, so there's a built-in storyline. Omega's kind of taking the role that AJ Styles has, where he's the best wrestler outside of the WWE product, where for years and years and years, AJ Styles was the best wrestler outside of the WWE product. Now that he's in the WWE, Omega's kind of taken his place. And I think they're two guys, I mean, come on, it's AJ Styles and Kenny Omega. Do I really have to explain why that this would be a fantastic match? You just know that it would be. I mean, they're two of the top wrestlers, probably in ring when you hit that bell, two of the best wrestlers that have ever done it, in my opinion. Now, before we get to our number one, we do a little thing here called the best of the rest. Basically, while we were putting together this list, these are a couple things that were thought of but didn't quite make the top 10. First one is Darby Allin versus Finn Balor. And if you notice the list that I have, it's no knock on Darby Allin, but he's nowhere near as accomplished as some of the wrestlers on this list. And that, again, not a knock on him. I'd love to see this match personally. I think Darby Allin and Finn Balor, with their gimmicks, they could pull off something really interesting and really fun. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't hold the weight of some of these other matches. I think they're fantastic. I think it would be a great match, whether you do it as a junior style match, a heavyweight style match, wild brawl. I think they can both bring out the best in each other. I think Darby Allin trying to top Finn Balor and Finn Balor trying to top Darby Allin would give us an interesting match, and it would just be fun to watch, in my opinion. Next up, Walter vs. Samoa Joe. This is one of the matches on this list that I think has a high probability of actually happening. Considering they're both under the WWE umbrella, we could easily see Samoa Joe go to NXT UK for a dream match with Walter, or vice versa. Walter get called up to the main roster and wrestle Samoa Joe. And it's just too much like Suzuki and Lesnar. This would be just a hard-hitting monster battle. Basically, again, King Kong versus Godzilla. Two guys that are just destroyers of worlds trying to destroy each other. And I think that would be very interesting and fun, in my opinion. Last but not least, on the best of the rest, the Guerrillas of Destiny versus Revival. And there they are, folks. I didn't skip the Revival off the list totally. Again, I didn't want to go with the obvious match, but this is another very intriguing match. How would the Guerrillas of Destiny wrestle a team like the Revival? How would the Revival prepare for a team like the Guerrillas of Destiny? It's fun to think of these things and think in your head how it would play out. And again, this is another one of those matches that I think we have to see at some point, because it would just be fantastic, in my opinion. Now, before we get into our number one, if you think I put something up too high, put something down too low, you have some other matches altogether that you would like to see, let me know down here in the comments. Put it down here. Make sure you hit the like and share and comment, all that beautiful crap. With all that being said, our number one dream match, John Cena versus Tanahashi. Yes, folks, I'm pulling the Cena card. You can't knock the guy in big matches. He comes out, he gives it his all. He always does his best in big matches. And what bigger match do you have than the face of the WWE, John Cena, versus the face of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Tanahashi? They're both a little bit past their prime. They're both have been kind of pushed to the background a bit. But it's a match I think it would work out well. I mean, they're both extraordinary storytellers. It would be akin to watching John Cena and Eddie Guerrero. It's just two guys that I think can put a great story on and make a great match. And all the meaning to it. The meaning is where it is. It reminded me the other day when WWE did their tribute to Harley Race, and they showed him wrestling guys like Bob Backlund and superstar Billy Graham. We used to get those matches. We used to get the NWA champion versus the WWF champion at the time. We used to get Hulk Hogan going to Japan and wrestling guys like Inoki and Muta. We used to get Ric Flair going over to Japan for runs and wrestling their top guys. It's kind of something that's gone away with time, and I know a lot of people are going to look at this crazy and say, why is Cena up so high? He's John Cena. I'm not a fan of his. I don't like him that much, but he's the Hulk Hogan of this generation, at least for the WWE. And Tanahashi, he's the Hulk Hogan of New Japan. He's the guy that's been credited most with bringing New Japan back into prominence. So, to me, I think it's a no-brainer. It's a marquee match that I think would sell the most tickets. It would have the most interest. And I'm not going to lie, I'd be super interested myself. But basically, that is my opinion on the top 10 dream matches that we could still have. If you like something here, you think I put something too high, too low, a match that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. My name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.